Welcome back, Pirates. You have made it to the last lesson of Unit 10. Congratulations. I hope you're hanging in there. Today we're going to talk about absolute value, which is a symbol you probably saw back in the good old glory days of junior high. This equation says the absolute value of x equals 5. So you might remember that if I'm taking absolute value, it always gives me a positive result. It's really the distance from 0. So I'm not completely sure if that number was positive 5 to start. That would give me an answer that's true. Or if that number was negative 5 to start, I would also get a positive 5. The key with absolute value is there are always two cases. Okay, so when I'm solving equations, the first thing I want to do is get the absolute value by itself. That means you're going to move anything that's bothering the absolute value. So in this case, the 2 is bothering the absolute value. Please do not distribute into those absolute value walls. That is not going to get you the right answer. What is the 2 doing? It's multiplying. So in order to undo that, I need to divide. I divide both sides by 2, and I get the absolute value of x plus 1 equals 5. Now, in order to set up my two cases, I'm going to take away the absolute value walls and say maybe this was a positive 5, or maybe this was a negative 5. I just don't know what was happening inside. After we get our two cases, now we're going to solve. Okay, same as it ever was. Now we're back to pretty much junior high solving. In order to undo plus 1, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. Here, I have a negative 5, so when I subtract 1, it leads me to negative 6. If you're feeling A++, what can we always do? That's right, you can always check your answer. When you check, you want to plug it in all the way back to the original equation. So if I take 4 plus 1 is 5, absolute value 5 times 2 is 10. I feel good about that one. If I plug in a negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5, but never fear, absolute value is back to positive 5 times 2 is 10. So I feel pretty good that both of these solutions will work. I can also use this plan with inequalities, but I've got to be even more careful. You might recall from inequalities that anytime there's a negative case, we need to flip our symbol, flip it good. For letter A, I've already gotten rid of the things on the outside of the absolute value, so it's time to set up our two cases. 2x minus 1 might be greater than 11, but now when I change this to a negative 11, I also need to flip my symbol. So 2x minus 1 less than negative 11. I'm going to solve both of these just like I normally would with my inequalities. I add the 1 and divide by 2. Same thing here, I add the 1 and divide by 2. Now the last thing you kind of have to decide, is this an and or an or? Again, we're going to go back to junior high a little bit, and we're going to look at how do I graph this on a number line? Are these two tails, or is this sandwiched in the middle? X greater than 6. We did this all the way back in the beginning of the year. This is going to be an open circle. Greater than means I'm shading to the right, to the right. Okay, x less than negative 5, open circle, shaded to the left, to the left. So if I look at my inequality on my number line, these are not pointed in the same direction, so this would be an or statement. If you're feeling very Algebra 2, you can also use your interval notation. This interval starts at negative infinity all the way to negative 5, but it doesn't include the negative 5, just like domain and range, open circle. I union that with 6 to infinity. So you can show your algebra one way, you might want to graph on a number line, and here's your Algebra 2 intervals. Okay, let's try one more with our inequalities. Now for letter B, there is something that needs to move first. So before I can set up my two cases, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So get absolute value by itself, check. two cases up next. I write exactly what I see, but now for my negative case, I need to flip that symbol, flip it good. I solve the result, so add 5 to both sides. Negative 2 plus 5 gives me 3. And now again, I want to investigate on my number line. So I have a 3 and a 7. X less than or equal to 7. So that would be a closed circle. Less than would be shaded to the left. X greater than or equal to 3. Closed circle, shaded to the right. So in this case, my final answer is an AND statement. They are both true. And if I wanted interval notation, I would start at 3. I can include the 3. And I'd go to the 7. Good luck with this worksheet. We'll be back tomorrow for any review help you might need.